Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Across the Park podcast. Well, this is a bit weird. It's just me on my own. I did say on our last episodes, which we done online, we recorded online, that I wanted to try and get back in the studio, get back face to face. It's been really difficult at the moment because Millsy's got loads of work stuff going on. Colin exactly the same. We did organise to have me and Colin on this morning, but again, Colin's not being able to make it. So I thought, do you know what? We've got it here. We've got it set up. Let's just record. So first of all, as you can see, slightly different surroundings this week. We are still going to be back in the pod cafe from time to time, but again, just need to mix things up a little bit. So massive thanks to Muscatelli Media. I've tagged them in the description below for sorting out this. We are in the Feathers, which is, again, if you're in a North Ender, you'll know Hawthorne Road and Harris Drive. It's right on the corner there. Bit of a micro pub, a little bit of a sports bar, but it's a nice setup, and it's where I record with the Leggett podcast. So again, thankfully we've been able to make this happen, and I'll see how this goes. It might be a bit weird, it might be a bit ranty, which it normally is if it's just me on my own, but I thought it'd be good to just get something out. This has been recorded on the Wednesday. It'll probably go out either Wednesday night or you might be listening on Thursday. We will be putting something else out later on the week with me and Millsy, but it'll be more than likely online. So just thought it'd be good to maybe look back at the disastrous end to the game against Bournemouth in a little bit more detail. Now that it's kind of the dust has settled a little bit on it. I can consider some of the managers' comments, some of the players' comments, a lot of the fans' comments as well. You know, we put a video out, our instant match reaction. Didn't get completely, complete agreement from all the fans and our followers, but that's the way it is. I was critical of certain players, and I'd like to kind of double down on some of them and probably reconsider some of the others. So, yeah, first of all, I mean, I've recorded a podcast or two where people have asked me about, my opinions on the results, on the performance, on the end of that game. Very little's changed really. I think there's very little excuse for what happened at the end of that game and the way that the team capitulated. Doesn't say a lot for the mentality of the players. Certainly doesn't say a lot for the manager in terms of his ability to manage games, and it does bring into doubt, how well this group is going to equip themselves, this season in the Premier League. I've gone on record saying that I think we'll have a much more comfortable season, but you're looking at it, we've had 3 games, we've conceded now 10 goals, we've only scored 2, and we've, each one of those performances that we've had this season has each had probably an equal measure of concern for different reasons. The performance against Brighton where they carved us open so easily and we missed chances. The performance against Tottenham where we didn't get started and we rolled over. And then that one at the weekends where we've been in front, we've played well, but we've still left with no points and conceded so many late goals. And I think there's definitely one of the biggest concerns for me is there's almost always a hangover from defeats like that. I think players now naturally will get to the end of games thinking, we've lost this game. We've lost games before with 3 minutes to go in normal time, having been 2-0 up. There's going to be that nervousness, and I think it's going to be really interesting and a big test of the manager and the players of how they get over that in future weeks. Sticking with the game for the time being, I still believe that the biggest factor coming out of that game was the lack of in-game management from the manager. I think even just making changes would have, ate into the time a little bit more, would have disrupted the momentum, disrupted the rhythm, maybe even give him a chance to send some messages on. I mean, I'm probably one of the... I'm certainly not by any stretch Ashley Young's biggest fan, and I think most fans, Everton fans, would prefer a team without Ashley Young in it. I think he's massively over the hill now. I think he lets us down on a lot of occasions. He's been sent off already this season. He was only on for a couple of minutes against Doncaster and got booked. But what Ashley Young is a his experienced pro. He's very cute. He's clever. He'll give fouls away, which at times can be to his detriment. But in a situation like we faced at the weekend, could have been perfect. You had Seamus Coleman, who was gone. His legs were gone. You had other players in midfield, I think, that were struggling. So again, I think the manager could have managed that situation by just bringing players on, running that clock down, as a few people have said that he's done very well at Burnley in the past. I'm really miffed as to why he didn't do that. He seems to be blaming the players, Dyche, which I don't think is ever a healthy thing. Now, he's done it at Chelsea last season. He was very critical of the players, and they reacted to that. Seamus Coleman's post-match interview was very interesting. He was actually, criticising the players and himself about the way that they handle that situation. So whether that's him as club captain thinking, I've got to back the manager's thoughts, we've got to show a bit of unity around, what we believe to be the reasons for throwing that lead away. But for me, I think most of those players could probably look at it and think, I think the manager could have done a bit more for us there. Another one that's that I mentioned in I think the instant match reaction, it's certainly done the round since, is the fact that Sean Dyche has never won a game in August. Now look, you've got to temper that sometimes. Some seasons there's only 1 or 2 games in August. This time there's been 3. But it's still remarkable that a manager who's managed for so long in the Premier League has never won a game in August. And for me, that points to 1, 2 or 3 things. One, how extreme as pre-seasons are in terms of the amount of, or the physical loading that the players have to go through, and the impact that has on their ability to perform. Now the Premier League is a 38-game season, so if you don't perform at your optimal for the first 3, but then you can start to click into gear after 5, 6, 7 games, it's not the end of the world. But when you're talking about the fine margins at our end of the league, in the relegation zone and at the other end of the league, they're key games. There's 9 points there potentially up for grabs, and if you're not ever going to get more than 3 points, i.e. 3 draws, you're starting behind all the time. So I think that's a big concern. I think the other one is maybe that he doesn't seem to get a firm grip on his best 11 or his best system early enough in the season. Michael Keane's been wheeled out again, as he does tend to be at the start of seasons. It's almost as though he's he's the black sheep of the family that nobody likes to associate themselves with, but then he always gets brought back in at Christmas, and then he's welcomed back into the fold again. He always seems to get his chance regardless, and when you've got a new signing sitting on the bench in Jake O'Brien, that is highly rated. He's certainly a physical presence. All right, he's not the finished article, but someone who could have played more minutes. Now, you'll have people saying, well, Michael Keane scored an important goal the weekend, and he did. And it was a great finish. And he's had a relatively good performance, but every Everton fan and every person who's followed Michael Keane during his career knows that good periods of the game for Michael Keane are common, but also mistakes and switching off and going missing and completely hiding when the chips are down are just vintage. They're classic Michael Keane traits. And towards the end of that game, he needed helping out. He either needed taken out of the game, or he needed replacing, or he needed joining by another centre half. And I spoke earlier today about the fact that under David Moyes, he would commonly bring another centre back on that in that situation. Now, you after the game, you'd be thinking, why does he do that? He invites more pressure. But those balls that come into that box towards the end of that game, if you have another centre back in there, those balls are dealt with. I'm confident of that. And equally, if you have fresh legs on the pitch, those players get back in that box as midfielders, and they probably track the runners. So again, going back to the point I was trying to make there, I think there's a lot of warning signs as to the manager and maybe what we can expect or continue to expect from this manager. And if I'm being honest, going into the future games, we've got Villa away, Leicester away. It's not insurmountable or unbelievable to imagine us losing both those games. Villa away is a very tough fixture. You'd probably bet on Villa winning that game, and I think most Evertonians would expect us to come away from Villa Park with nothing, maybe a draw at best. Leicester away, although I predicted Leicester to go down, I still think they look like a pretty poor side in this division. Again, Leicester are at home. They've drew with Tottenham already. They're certainly capable of beating us. That could be us staring at 5 defeats on the bounce. 5 defeats on the bounce, given that we played Bournemouth at home and Leicester away, probably loses you your job in other circumstances. But we are a club at the moment that probably can't afford to financially sack the manager, and maybe haven't even got the people on the board who've got the authority to do that. So, it's a big factor going into them games. You probably see how much these players really want the manager and really back him, and it's going to be a critical time for us. But yeah, again, a lot to dwell on over the international break. I think finishing that game, I was thinking, God, when I would have to sit for the best part of 2 weeks until the next fixture and dwell on that. I don't know if that's a bad or a good thing. Most of our players, fortunately for us, will not be on international duty. So it may be a good chance for the players to go and have some, away time with the families, with each other, regroup. And it gives them a bit of preparation, a bit of time to maybe just try and forget about that. I think the next time we're out at Goodison is probably going to be 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month since that Bournemouth game. So I think you could see that as a positive. I think by the time we get to the Goodison game, hopefully we'll have won our first game at Leicester. Maybe we'll have put in a positive performance at Villa. So from the flip side of the coin, the international break could be a good thing for us, and those fixtures could provide an opportunity for the players to get back to Goodison and get back to a Goodison that once again, like Saturday, is rocking and is fully behind the team. But still very raw for me. Again, it's a difficult one for me to talk over, being on my own, but hopefully I've summarised my feelings quite well, where I am at the moment. And time will tell now coming into the next fixture. I think it's, regardless of the results of Villa, I just think it's such an important game for those players and the manager to kind of show what they're about. I do think there were a lot of positives if you take that awful last 10 minutes away from the game. And I know people will be shaking their heads going, how can you take a positive from that defeat? And I'd be with you. But if you're going to break it down tactically and all that, we dominated that game. We were on the front foot. We were aggressive, out of possession. And we took the game to them, which we didn't come close to doing against Tottenham. You've obviously got to consider the opponent, but that's a team that, like I said in the build-up to the game, are well accustomed to the manager's style of play. A lot of players who've played well under the manager and done fairly well. They had a good end to last season, Bournemouth as well. So I still think that you can take a lot of positives from the actual performance itself, and it'll just be interesting to see if we can carry that performance and the way we played at the start of that game and for the majority of that game into the Villa game and try and compete better than we did against Spurs. If we do see a performance similar to the Spurs game, you're starting to look at it and really probably consider whether the manager can get enough of a tune out of these players. And I think you then start to think, well, look, the minute that John Textor potentially in his group take over, will that be the first action that they make, is replacing the manager? At this moment in time, you'd imagine the answer would be yes. But I think, again, you can't underestimate how important these two fixtures are coming out of the international break. And again, if we can get back to the focus on the positives of the first 85, 87 minutes, we can get Iliman Ndiaye playing the way that he did more consistently. You can get Dominic Calvert-Lewin producing what he did. I thought Dwight McNeil playing in that kind of 10 role was a I wouldn't say a revelation, but I think it was a real plus as well. There were a lot of good performances out there. Tim Arabunan was fantastic again. He's been, for me, I know it's only been 3 games, and they've been 3 games that unfortunately have been negative outcomes for us. He's been our best player over those 3 games combined so far. Massive plus. So again, look, I think that there are positives to take from it, and there are players that, despite the defeat, again, Iliman Ndiaye comes off that pitch at 2-0 and the game's over pretty much. He should not be going into that Villa game thinking with his head on the floor, because he performed well as an individual. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has performed very well in that game. He should be coming out that game probably, despite the results, thinking, you know what, I've had a good performance, I've got back on the score sheet. score sheet for the first time in a while. And I think a lot of the attacking players, despite the result, will take some confidence from it. So, again, it'll be interesting to see how Dyche rallies the troops, and I think there'll be a lot that we can take from or a lot that we'll find out about that group of players going into that Villa game. But yeah, look, listen, that's it. I don't want to keep it dragging on too long. It's a monologue really more than anything else. So I think if you're watching this or listening to this, you'll probably be tired of my voice already. Please drop us your comments. Let us know what you think. Again, I think that the Bournemouth game alone as a whole will have a lot of people thinking about who was at fault, etc. Be interesting to hear everyone's thoughts. One last one or a couple of last things from me. I did pinpoint Jordan Pickford, as I often do. I mean, followers of the show will know that I'm not maybe on board with a lot of the Evertonians' views that he's the goalkeeper, or he's a world class goalie. Now I do think he's been a great servant to Everton. I think he's pulled off some unbelievable saves. He's kept a lot of clean sheets. I'm not saying he's a bad goalkeeper by any stretch. I actually think there's very few goalkeepers in the Premier League that are better than him. But I do think, again, at times he can be found wanting. And I do think at the weekends, despite me maybe not piling on as much as in the instant match reaction, I do think that some of them goals he could have managed better. Certainly the second one where the ball's hanging in the air for quite some time, and arguably the third one as well. But no, he's not by any means or by any stretch the sole contributor to that defeat. But I still do retain that him as well as the back four could have done a lot better on those goals. Last one on a positive note, and again, we are a Merseyside, a Liverpool-based podcast. We always try and support local businesses and local causes. I'm currently wearing now a Red Run Founders Club t-shirt. So Red Run, for any of the females in Liverpool, they'll recognise that brand. It's been an established brand. They do active wear for mainly for women, for girls. You see it everywhere once you've seen that logo. This is some of the men's stuff. So this particular t-shirt, all of the proceeds go to men's mental health. So if you go on the website which I believe is redrun.co.uk or Red Run Activewear, you can search for it on Google. They have got some of the stuff as well in JD as well. But anyway, it's Red Run, not Red Run the horse, Red Run as in running. If you look them up on Google, get onto their website, there'll be a section on the website which says Founders Club. They've got some stuff there which is their own stuff from this range, but then all the t-shirts, the male and the female t-shirts, all the proceeds from the sales go to men's mental health. So if you want to do something positive over the international window, get along or get onto the website, buy yourself a t-shirt, raise some money for men's mental health, and hopefully you agree they're decent t-shirts as well. Enjoy the rest of your week. Try and enjoy the weekends off, as it is for Evertonians, not worrying about the results. Spend some time with the family. Hopefully we come out to the international break, we can produce a better performance, but we'll soon see. We can't guarantee that. As always, up the Toffees.